Isaac Sarason is a skilled hacker, formerly employed by British Telecom-Sprint. When his health failed, Isaac did the only thing he could think of. He ran. A burqa-wearing doctor known as Fatima took pity on Isaac and helped him make his way to the mysterious Star X line. At the end of all hope, they found the Star X line and the slim promise that the enigmatic beings behind the Star X could save Isaac from the implants which destroyed his life. What do you do when those who saved you have recorded everything you are? What do you do when your every action is tracked by the Keylogger? Colbyjack.net is proud to present Firmware Keylogger, the third installment of Firmware by Colbytrax. Episode 59. I decided that a compliment was in order. So, I started. So I noticed you are very fit. Not the level of toning one could achieve without a gym. How do you do it? I caught the start of a smile. Good genetics, she laughed. And a chambered nautilus. I let out an audible whistle, the kind one makes when someone tells you they won the city lottery. Nice, very nice, I commented. How much did that set you back? The genetics? She asked, deflecting my question. More than you would believe. No, the chambered nautilus. I tried to bring her back on my line of questioning. Those things are like what, 4 years out of beta? 2 years, she answered. I had an alpha test unit, which they upgraded when the beta started, and allowed me to keep as compensation. Compensation? This was incredible. To think that the crazy conspiracy non I was trapped with was also a true genius was something I still couldn't wrap my mind around. You were on the team which designed it? I was the AI team, she answered. Don't ask me to explain how the memory plastic arrays can shift from treadmill to exercise bike to multi-station gym to rowing machine without requiring you to get off the unit. That wasn't my department. Besides, those gals were geniuses. Nothing I can do would measure up to their creativity. All I had to do was program a modified heuristic AI utilizing techniques invented when computers were made of flint. Seriously, my entire goal was to keep the unit from trying to occupy the same space as the user during transformations. Something in me choked. I didn't know how my software did it, but I definitely had a feeling of sputtering and surprised at the banality of your response. Could you say that in Egrish? She laughed and looked toward the ceiling. The curve of your throat, the line of your small Adam's apple, the shadows from the horrible lights gave Jur an elfin grace, which reminded me of so many mistakes. So, what they hired me to do was to make sure the unit didn't kill the user, she answered. Actually, that isn't quite right. What I had to do was to create a unit which could learn from its user which method of transformation brought them the most joy. You weren't worried about scaring them? I asked. At the root of everything, that was the goal. We didn't want to scare our customers. But you can't design beautiful systems if you design away from fear. Beauty only comes from when one designs toward joy, Janan answered. That was the best thing about the project, designing toward joy. The thought alone makes me smile. So, if you had to pay for one, would you buy a chambered nautilus? I asked, feeling impish. Yes, I would, she said with a long sigh. Even though, I started, even though it cost half a decade's income and keep me from getting that little condo I have my eye on that overlooks Alcatraz. Yes, it is that good, she answered. Besides, I don't have to go to the gym, and I get to keep a body like this. You said something about genetics, I started. Oh, yes. She shook her head. Genetics has a lot to do with my ability to keep an athlete's physique on a half-hour's workout a day. Seriously, The workout I do is what they assign to people to combat asthma and cholesterol buildup. I can barely do 3 miles in half an hour, but I can keep going for days. So there has to be some compensation in there somewhere. She stopped and shifted your position so she had a line of sight behind the cabinet. I saw your tense as she found yourself staring at the business end of the CMA. She shifted back under the light and relaxed. All this genetics crap is in your little Opemapo home. Why don't you just read the reports? We had been over this before in our hours of conversations leading up to and continuing with the installation of the Cyberdyne cabinet. We were becoming that old couple which had the same circular conversations over and over again. There were themes we would return to, and my inability to read scientist speak was one of them. You know I can only understand those reports if they have pictures, preferably in crayon, I answered, giving a stock response which I knew she liked. Besides, the genetics reports aren't even in English. She smiled. If by English you mean street slang, then you are correct. Actually, I was referring to leet speak, the one true language of the net, I responded, as the script required. As I forgot to include the crayon version of the many detailed genetic examinations I enjoyed from birth through early adulthood, I will give you the most basic coloring book version. It seems you have problems with words which do not include numbers, Shanann joked. Besides, you might want to check the CMA's estimate. It appears to have hit a snag. It's down to patching a fiber a second. At that rate, it'll take another hour. I checked the CMA systems. It indeed had slowed down. It was now projecting a finish time of a little over an hour and 20 minutes. Yep, a bit over an hour, but who knows? The silly thing uses a simple average to project finish times. If it hits a snag, it just assumes the snag will continue until the project is over. Why do you suddenly care how long it's going to take? Got a hot date? I teased. I caught a blush from Shanann. I just wanted to know how much longer we'd have to wait for connectivity. I see. Just wanted to know how long it would take to connect. But weren't you planning on just jamming the pipe ends together and letting the auto-splicers take their own sweet time? I asked. I was, she said. But then you put your CMA into action. After you pinched your fingers trying to connect the pipe, I interrupted. Yes, I pinched my fingers, and Mr. Macho here had to show off by having the CMA knit all the little fibers together instead of letting the pipe do what it was designed to do, Shanann answered. But I thought you were prepared to wait the 72 hours the auto-splicers needed to work their magic, I asked. I was, she said. But now that it is going faster, I have adjusted my time schedule to the framework you have created. I now become anxious when the new schedule is thrown off. How very convenient, I answered. I really needed to set up a screen so I could project my body language to her. Do you have the Opemapo infoscope with you? Of course, Shanann answered. They're in the toolbox. Why? Well, I can see you and read your body language, and I thought it might be easier for you to read my intent if you could see my body language. I know it sounds lame, I explained, feeling like I was back in high school trying to figure out how to ask a girl out. It is lame, she answered. But aren't the cameras on the infoscope better than most of what you have here? They are, but they won't let me see you, I flirted. Why the hell was I flirting with the woman? Man, Non was accurate, but didn't include the sexual energy I was feeling in appendages I wasn't even aware had been included in my programming. I saw her blush, and worried I had gone too far. She smiled and walked across the room toward the toolbox and the infoscope, which served as the portable imaging system of the Opemapo Null. Do me one favor, please, Shanann said as she picked up a stylish set of black-rimmed glasses. Those don't look like Mospas, I commented. Of course not. They're Persol. I'm retro, not fashion-challenged, Shanann teased. Oh, I forgot. You were the fashion victim in the Mospa shades. I thought the cyberpunk revival ended last decade. That's enough out of you, young... What is the right word? I keep getting lost around the weirdest words, I said as I tried to find a replacement for lady in the phrase young lady. You do a lot better than most, Jeanne said as she put the Persol-fashioned infoscope on. Now remember, no dick pics. If I see so much as a foreskin, I'm never giving you access to an infoscope again. Really? I asked. Really, she stated emphatically. No pubes, no glands, no scrotum, no penis, none of that. I have one of my own, thank you very much, and no non or woman wants to see that shit on their screens. Then what about porn? I teased. Last I saw, that industry was filled full of videos marketed directly to women. Don't be pedantic, Jeanne responded. You know what I meant. If I wanted you to show me a penis, I'd ask you to. Seeing as you don't actually have one of the offending bits you might want to show me, then what I'd be seeing was other guys' stuff. And really, I don't need that either. She smiled. Though it might be interesting to see what you thought would turn me on. No, that experiment can wait till I'm halfway through a bottle of wine. I prepared an avatar. It was a mini Isaac, as he had wanted to be seen. The idealized image of the serious professional programmer. I examined the look and realized that Isaac dressed a lot like a professor. Not the fashion sense of one of those interesting humanities majors with their focus on colors, feelings, and the traditions of small neighborhood enclaves no one really wanted to visit unless they were on a fellowship grant. No, Isaac's perfect self-image, and mine for that part, was the classic look of the tenured comp-sci professor. White shirt, no tie, slate pants, a sports jacket of a slightly off shade of black, which didn't actually match the pants, and brown leather loafers. I like this look, a look seen in every faculty photograph going back to the founding of the Adelphi Comp-Sci department back when computers were made of flint. When I was satisfied with it, I presented it to Jeanne as a figure waving to her from the far side of the room. She laughed. I blushed. The avatar of myself was operated by my proprioception systems, so it mirrored what my body would do if I had one. Wait a minute. How did I still have a proprioception system? Didn't the Yoda me excise that to make me more portable? My own personal expectations of my capabilities were at odds with reality, and quite naturally with the plans the Yoda me had left in my memories. To be honest, I didn't even know what he had expected me to do with Jeanne. His message to me was a cryptic reference to your religion, Abedini, and the order to run with it, whatever that meant. Jeanne, I started. Yes, she responded as she studied my avatar. I knew she was studying my avatar. The Persol infoscope communicated wirelessly with the Hemipo null, and one of the many bits of information I had access to was the location of your focus and the status of your irises. Based on her iris size and the length of time she studied my form, I knew she liked what she was seeing. What I couldn't see was why, but that wasn't as important at this moment as I thought it was a few minutes ago. Why are you doing what you're doing? I asked. What do you mean? She sounded like she had been caught doing something she shouldn't have. Housing me, setting up the server, dropping everything at school to pull, what did you call it? I asked, feeling very concerned that something strange was up. I felt that any moment now, everyone would jump out and tell me, no, the really attractive person with the body of a runner and the mind of a genius, the non with every attribute you've ever found attractive and sought out in another and never found before, that one, that very one, was just using you. You were just another victim of another Janet or a Nona, and you were praying against hope that Jeanne wouldn't be added to that list. And in the end, she would be added to that list, for no one like Jur ever really wanted someone like you. Your voice came to me from far away. I am pulling a Professor Jones. It's part of my arrangement at Adelphi. I investigate certain issues for Regent Ramos, and he arranges for me to drop everything at a moment's notice. I'm sure you can't pull a Professor Jones without good reason. I stated for my own record. Correct. Regent Ramos wants results from my Jones expeditions. Janan answered. To be honest, this was the first time I used the Jones option. In the past, I've been able to slip into the neighborhoods of interest and back out without leaving too many traces of my passing. But what do you get from it? I asked. I desperately wanted to know she wasn't a Janet. My heart needed to know she wasn't an athlete who only looked at me because she wanted something. I so wanted me to be the reason she was helping me. Janan was approaching the spot I had projected myself in the room. I didn't know what to do. I tried to shift my perspective in Jur Infoscope, to keep the same distance from Jur, to not ruin the illusion. She motioned lightly with her hand in the way one tries to get a squirrel to stay where it is for a photo in the park. Like a good squirrel, I froze. The view was becoming confusing. I could see myself as I was projected to Janan via the infoscope directly to her optic nerves. But I couldn't see Jur. She edged closer to me. Her fear of the CMA had been replaced by a need to approach my avatar. I shifted my image sideways down the wall, away from the CMA, until my avatar's eyes were projected in line with one of the many wireless cameras arrayed around the edges of the ersatz server room. I shifted my view and now saw Janan as she would have appeared to my own eyes if I could just be a real boy and stand where my projected body was. The resolution on the camera was horrible, the light unflattering, but none of that mattered to me. Here I was, as close to real as I could manage on short notice, with the incredibly sexually charged Janan coming to stand before me.
Firmware Keylogger begins where Firmware Proxy ends, which in turn followed on the heels of Firmware Hijacked. Firmware Hijacked, Proxy, and Keylogger are all available in ebook versions from our store at shop.Colbyjack.net, Amazon.com, BarnesandNoble.com, and Smashwords.com. Just search for Colbytrax. That's Colbytrax. I'm the only one. A complete audiobook version of both Firmware, Hijacked, Proxy, and soon Keylogger is available for download through our shop as well. If you don't need any stuff, but would like to support our work, drop on by Colbyjack.net and hit the pretty little donate button conveniently located on the right-hand side of the blog roll. Firmware Keylogger is released under a Creative Commons, non-commercial, attribution, share-alike license. Do what you want with it. Just don't sell it, and always tell people where it came from. If you received this from a friend and want more information about Colbyjack.net and our split personality website, just drop on over to Colbyjack.net and select either the audio or visual side. The audio side carries our podcast, while the visual side carries our writings. Whichever side catches your fancy is fine with us. We're of two minds about the whole thing anyway. I do mostly Twitter, so if you do the tweets and want to follow me, I'm Colbytrax. That's Colbytrax. Thank you once again. Remember to be fabulous and have a wonderful week.